Hi, everybody, and welcome to Conscious TV. I don't know if you can hear me or see me. Can you?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, and I'm your host, Linda Summers, and we are providing information to bring awareness to humanity. And our guest is Rick Dewar's Divine of High Order. And today's topic is a 4D perspective of world economics and the transition into 5D. And I just want to thank everybody for joining the show.
Try or both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting closer. Yeah, that's better.
I'm going to take this off and see if there's an echo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's still kind of an echo, but all right. Sorry, everybody. And I still can't connect the camera. But anyway. Is there a delay?
Yes.
Let me see if I can't connect again. Hold on, guys.
You're getting closer. Yeah, this might do it.
Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Thanks, Rick. I have no idea what's going on. Let me try and refresh.
Okay.
Okay. I have arrived.
Oh, there you are. Hey, it's in sync. Woo!
You know what's so funny, everybody? Rick, I was just asking you about some of my essences. Oh gosh, I guess they just want to play around today. I don't know. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds cool too. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I hope it's not delayed. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you so much for being here, Linda, again. And yeah, let's have some more fun, huh? And get some things out there. And thank you to all the viewers, and my love to all on this precious journey.
Yes. Sarah's like ground control. Yeah, we need ground control. We need a galactic control.
Oh, awesome. There you girl. Yeah, you got your power going. Awesome. We're rock and roll.
Okay, geez. All right. So the title went away. Well, today's title is, if anybody didn't hear me, there was a huge echo going on my end. It's a 4D perspective of world economics and the transitioning into 5D. So with that being said, yeah, we got a lot of stuff to touch on.
Yeah, indeed. You know, basically and generally, we are in this awakening, great awakening or ascension, which I refer to. But this has been ongoing, and many things were seeded for this time. But basically since 2012, that's when things uh, began to be divinely worked on the 4D timeline. And what I call the 4D timeline is what many of us are still reciting upon, but we do go into 5D states of being and occasionally into the 5D reality where things are slightly different. But having said that, basically, we are existing mostly on the 4D level, but with a state of 5D being. And again, having said that, the reason why this is so is that this is, let's say, it's been divinely decreed since 2012 that we be here and rectify all of the things that went wrong and that needs to be rectified to embrace humanity and free them. And along with that, to do it, there's just so much information and documentation on literally showing how all the systems were corrupt right to their very core. So during this ascension process of liberating humanity, if you will, and also us as souls, and taking us out of the enslavement that was intentionally done, we must change the entire systems. And the first way to do that is you need to tear that old page out of the book. But it is a tedious process. And part of that process is going into the old system, retrieving all of the factual evidence and documents that are required to present it handsomely to an unawakened public of what actually was occurring. And again, explicitly depicting it in its true essence, what it was, the enslavement. So to get people to believe, you have to produce a certain amount of evidence and documentation. So very meticulously, divinity has gone into all avenues of governments, finance, everything. And they have been diligently working in there over the last several years, and even more, some, to produce all this required documentation to tear down the systems as they were and to free humanity mainly from the monetary controls and restrictions. So to do that, you had to present a very good case, and divinity always succeeds, and they have done that. A very good case is prepared, but pieces of that are also being revealed to you in substantial and incontestable evidence to fully support that. So it is real, it is true, and any one of you that gets away from the mainstream media and does do your homework and actually look at the evidence, there is no denying nor refuting it, that it is real and that it does show an actual intent to enslave and much more than that. So I'll stop there. I know I'll stop there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's start with your first point on the early seeds. You have early seeds Comer case. I'm not sure in the printing of fiat money. So early seeds.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the viewers may be familiar with what we call the Comer case, and this is mostly in Canada. So the first part it is the time is ripe to begin revealing more of the implosion of the Canadian government as well. We've discussed in past shows, and everyone knows that it began in the US, the implosion and the ascension effects to free humanity. But now it is trickling more into the other areas. In Canada, is the main one from the US, which will be affected. So, but seeding, for this time is the calmer case, and essentially, it was a case by the people to in 1972. Now, I will be speaking from a 4D perspective on this, and that is because, for the most degree, this is for ones that are awakening, but also, some background information. But again, back to the calmer case, essentially, if you look at things in politics and economics, where this is where everything went wrong, because it is the societies and the way that things worked. In 1972, I believe, Canada actually gave the power to the Bank of Canada and other banks, gave them the power to print the money, but then the government borrow from the banks. So it's the same sort of setup that you have in the US, where the US borrows from the banks, which is the Federal Reserve. And we all know right now, Trump has signed execution orders and is going full steam ahead in the direction to demolish uh, any reliance upon the Fed. But prior to this, now in Canada, there were measures taken to the same effect. So the calmer case, it was brought before what we have here, the Supreme Court of Canada, and to get a ruling on it in a certain constitutional way, because of the indebtedness that the government's actions did, and I believe it was 1972, which enslaved the taxpayers of Canada into, let's say, a more restrictive, um, how will I put this? Anyways, to restrict them more and to put more tax burden upon them by paying interest to a bank, on the money that was borrowed from Canada. So the Calmer case is a prime example of the people standing up, not accepting what the government was doing. And also, very importantly, uh, it is also fully indicative that the ones, let's say the public interest, or the general public, they always knew that politicians are not working in their favor. They always knew that, it was accepted for a long time. However, it came to the point where everyone is taking action. And where I mean everyone, it is the public interest, the lower echelons of society as well. So the Calmer case was very important. There was a renowned Canadian lawyer, he still is, Gelati. Oh, anyways, Gelati is his last. Rocco Gelati. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So he put it before the Canadian Supreme Court, and I think in 2017, more or less, the Canadian justice system kind of said no. We're not hearing this case or this trial, and try to push it under the rug, and more or less without. See, when the Supreme Court of Canada, when they reject um, a trial, or they reject a request for a trial, the way it's set up here, that Supreme Court does not have to give a reason why. They just have the power to do it, and without any explanation. So this is what they did. They just said no, because again, it's so revealing, and it would have put everything on the spot and revealed more. However, I believe it was May 2017, the Calmer case, they tried to put in a former appeal, but it was rejected to try to get the case heard. But that's not the end of it. yet. There's still things that are coming in from all angles to support such things at this time, which we will get into later on with the Yellow Vest movement and coming to Canada. It's connected to what I'm saying now, and that is more so, a 5D transition there. But with the background, so the same sort of thing here in Canada as what was going on in the U.S. Get rid of the bankers from the government. So a very important and instrumental move by the people of Canada to take action, and very impressive. Yes.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the printing of fiat money. I thought that you guys have a different exchange of money up there, right? Well, it's all fiat. I guess it doesn't really matter where it's coming from.
Well, indeed, and that's why I need to include there. Yes, essentially now upon the planet, all of the money that is out there is what we would call fiat money, meaning it's printed, that there is nothing to back it. The physical, actual, dollar bills, $10 bills, that is not out there to even back it. That it's all digital now for the most part, and countries have been retracting cash and taking it out of circulation for a long time now, and limiting it, being ready for the digital society of which they wish to impose to fully upon you, to track your every movement, but also to control you with just a plastic card, meaning that at any time, if you did not submit to them, or if you were an advocate or whatever, and you had no cash money, then you just have a card. So their imagination said, well, they can just cut you off and just cut you off from any monetary purchases by controlling you that way. But that didn't work, and it does not. And actually, it's kind of being twisted back around on them, because with the galactic technology, the digital system that they created to entrap humanity has actually been overtaken by the galactics. So they are now the hunted, per se. So it's very comical what is actually transpiring in respect to that. But again, getting back to, fiat money, and essentially with economics, for any country to issue currency, it needed to be backed, asset backed to some degree, usually gold or precious metals. But for the economics that the cabal and the dark ones had designed, the way it was designed, it was unknowingly to them that it could never expand outward and continue on. It was an imploding system, anyhow. And, a lot of things they did not anticipate was the awakening and the higher consciousness, and one's breaking out of the conditioning that they were programmed in their schools, and all of this to keep them conditioned and conformed to the economic society that was presented to them. So one thing that was not reckoned upon either was, the cabal or the dark angels or the elite, that the public would become wise. But that's where divinity stepped in to assure this awakening. So back to the fiat monies again. The problem essentially economically in the world right now from the 4D level is that there is, let's say, 99% of the money printed out there is not backed by an asset or even gold. And a few years ago, when they realized what was coming, the dark ones, the banks, if you will, they are part of that. There was a huge scramble to steal property, mortgage crisis. That was an attempt to asset back in the U.S., just seizing foreclosures on all these homes. It was all set up for the bank collapses and and all of these, there was a little bit of them banks fighting among themselves, shark eat shark, if you will, to limit that competition, because all of the banks were scrambling for some sort of asset to back the money that they had printed. But both governments, the US and the Canadian, they signed, um, they were borrowing from the banks. So the government sold the people out to the banks, right? Previously sold the people out. But then along comes this awakening crew and all of uh, the realization that the way they had devised their economics would no longer work. Then you got all these banks there very scared because they cannot legally, with the when the other set of books, like banks, they got two sets of books. They have one that they show the public. They do have the other one for their own greedy parties and all of this, what they do. But if anyone, especially today with a lot of accountants, if you're to do a forensic audit on these banks, you really do not need to be a CA or a specialized accountant. If you're just a little bit good with math, very quickly you'll start seeing things that are not adding up with the banks, you know, in their trading revenues. Um, Quickly look at the banks during times when there were stock market crashes. And also, when you look at the time of stock market crashes, in reality, the banks make their hugest profits. And because they are allowed to short, and the banks control the markets. They dictate the price of every derivative, every currency, every stock that is sold. So the banks never lose because they control the financial markets, and the banks are in collusion with the governments. And a prime example of that huge conflict of interest towards the public interest is what occurred up here with Canada several years ago when they sold the TSX. The Toronto Stock Exchange was allowed to be bought, or to be purchased, I should say, to be perhaps more grammarly correct. But so what they did is what the government of Canada condoned is they allowed major banks, I believe it was four of the major banks, some of the huge pension funds, the Ontario Teachers Fund, they allowed these pension funds to own the stock exchange. Now, there's this a huge conflict of interest, whereas, to keep it simple, the banks, they are the big money, and anyone that was in the stock market and plays it, and I know what I'm speaking about because I was in there, and I was becoming a very successful trader until they intentionally, deliberately hit me. But let me say, you know, the banks actually manipulate the stock markets every day. It is not a free enterprise for anyone. And even any one of your pensions, your pension funds, they're allowed to build up what you would think. Then they're creamed. And, you know, essentially you look up here in Canada again with some of the old age pensions that in Canada pensions, like it's way below the poverty level. For example, you know, it is a little bit difficult, let's say 1,200 Canadian dollars to live on that a month up here. But what you have is some of these pensions, $600, $200 a month is what the government gives them. And in reality, if everything was just incorrect since 1972, and this holds true for the U.S. as well, anyone, you know, taking their Social Security, their old age benefits, you know, they should have been enjoying beautiful pensions of 60, 70,000 a year, you know, because that's what you worked for. But what the greed has done is they inverted and said, no, we're taking all of this money off your pensions. So they do that with the stock market crashes,
Yeah.
and just give you a little bit to keep
Yeah.
control over you as well. And it's very sad and pathetic, you know,
Yeah.
that the peoples in Canada and US accept what's being done to their moms and their dads, to their grandmas and granddads, how they're being robbed and pillaged, and you know, some of them even have to go back to work. They're sick, and yeah, it just
Same thing
it's
here.
not acceptable at all. And this is what's
Yeah.
occurring. People are standing up against this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
what was the topic?
Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. And well, actually, we're just sort of really talking about the people's experiencing unjust rulings, negligence of governments,
Mhm.
ignoring
So,
people's cases, and targeted pillage. We really just kind of went over that
yeah, but I
in some
wish to
degree.
take, just to touch on another topic
Hmm.
just very quickly.
Yeah,
So a lot of the no, skip it, please.
I'll skip that question.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
BCSC and ASC bring exposed Barrett Gold, MS stock fighting, corruption, more investment groups prepared to go, which we really kind of touched on that a little bit. The Barrett
Um,
Gold. What's the
well,
BCSC?
this is important to bring this up. So in the financial markets, up here in Canada, there are what they call securities regulators, and these are supposed to be regulators from the government. They are agencies set up to protect the public interest. That is their
Mm-hmm.
mandate, and to assure a fair and free market, as to speak. But in the total reality, and there's enough evidence out there right now to show it, that that is it's a falsity, and it's also a deception in the least. Uh, and it's also fraudulent because there was enticement involved in that by government institutions at presenting a false protection to the people, which is not really there. And so, in relation to that, there are many cases, if they need to come, are being prepared by many investors in Canada that have lost billions of dollars. And again, what is occurring currently is there is a company, a gold mining company, Mountain Star Gold, has been fighting the BC Securities and Barrick Gold. And Barrick Gold was one of the main suppliers for the World's Monetary Fund and the IMF of gold. And Barrick Gold is a cabal instrument, such to um, keep control over uh, whatever gold deposits are discovered. So Barrick was the bully in the playground, and what they would do, much uh, a, a whole string of criminality, but a lot is right now going to be exposed, and you may see this in a few days. What it involves is the infiltration. We can expose this many ways, but again, on a 4D level, what you're going to see is that your securities regulators, BC Securities, Alberta Securities, even the Ontario Securities, there's been certain things presented to them which explicitly within the terms of law shows their negligence and also fraud. So this is also going to affect and take down uh, these aspects of government, but also publicly show how they are void actually against the public interest. So when you began revealing fraudulent ones, and then you're also having And this is also very important. Within these government agencies, you have good people
Yeah.
that have souls, and a lot of these have left, and they are whistleblowing, and a lot
Yeah.
are leaving as well. So again, you are witnessing the demise, and you're not going to see this in your mainstream media. Well, perhaps you will, in the very near future, but you did not
Yeah. Not
see it
soon.
because they did not want you to see what is actually occurring behind the scenes. So it was all kept from you. And uh, all of the regulators in Canada, securities regulators, they are all part to create the illusion with the banks and the governments. It's all partisan to what they do. And also in respect with this, uh, the main police force, the RCMP force in Canada, which is supposed to certain degrees uphold and enforce the laws. There is, and there's some more down the list. We'll get into that as well. But
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
actually seeing is that is also against the public interest. You are seeing areas of officers being exposed in criminal activity and fraudulent activity. And so you're seeing that being revealed of what it is as well, that again, there is no integrity within there. And
Right.
the public safety minister here in Canada is, the RCMP is, he governs it, and the chiefs of police. But what they are purveying to the public is not stupid anymore.
Mm.
They are
Yeah.
not brainwashed, and they are not conditioned. So it matters not what the politicians attempt to present to the public. No longer is it being accepted, because out of their desperate attempts at trying to appease a public and say it's going to be okay, they keep putting their foot in their mouth, because everything that they had done prior is built on deception and lies,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Corruption.
essentially. So,
Mhm.
and as to keep it simple, uh, when you tell one lie and you don't correct it, it keeps creating other ones. But it comes to a point where you box yourself in. You have no way to turn.
Yeah.
Then the string begins to be unraveled and reveals the truth. So that is currently what's happening with that.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to reiterate what you had mentioned earlier. The reason why we're talking about this is because the title of the show is a 4D perspective of world economics and the transition to 5D, because there are new ones, new angels that are awakening, and just to fill them in on, kind of what was, right? Even though we're not in that, we were moving out of that, but nobody's that you've got the alternative media reporting some of all this stuff, but not the mainstream media, which they're not going to hear it on mainstream media anyway. So I just wanted to reiterate that, for anybody that's joining us, that, why we're really kind of talking
Mm-hmm.
about this and kind of rehashing this stuff, just to say that there are things that really are coming to a head now, which kind of goes into our next one. Well, recent resignations in the judicial system, RCMP, faces a large sexual harassment suit, revealed
Okay.
fraud on
Yeah.
senior
Uh,
levels.
when I put those points, actually, I should have had them all separated because they are slightly tip
Yeah,
similar topics.
similar.
So
Yeah.
what was the
Well,
first one?
you were just saying about recent resignations in judicial system. You talked about the
Oh, thank you.
RCMP
Yeah.
patient. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what's occurring up here in Canada, and anyone can check this out because it is public. There is a shortage of judges here in BC is only one example. But you're beginning to see more resignations by ones in the judicial and enforcement agencies as well. And we mentioned on this in another show, but also a lot of this is occurring because of the implosion that is also occurring at this time. So more recently, in respect to this, uh, what you are now seeing is, especially with the Prime Minister Trudeau and his secretary, and also one of his speakers, what you are seeing is they resigned, I believe, a couple days ago. They are stepping down, but also Jody Wilson is very important. She was the attorney, the justice minister, the attorney general uh, for Canada. But what you saw just a few months ago is that the cabinet was shuffled and she was taken out of there. And Jody is a native lady and from North America, Canada, and she was shuffled and demoted more or less to another position. But then just a few days ago, you saw her resign, and it's also because of many things that are about to come here very quickly. It may just crash and very quickly with that, but pay attention to all of these because it is barely the tip of the iceberg what has to occur here. And again, we need to go and look at right at this time, there is, I believe, over 73,000 sealed indictments in the
Yeah.
U.S. And this is so important, again, because this connects all of the dots to the crime up here in Canada as well. And it goes right into every aspect of the government of Canada. So every level of it. And it's all going to be exposed as well. Because, see, what you have is when you have criminals per se, the elitists that have all the money, and this is what's being exposed in the US. But when you have all these paper trails, and especially, let's say, if you have elitists that were US citizens that are bribing Canadian officials,
Yeah.
and you have the paper trail, I mean, it's revealing everything in that respect as well. And, it's showing it's incontestable evidence of who sleeps together is what it is. And the evidence, what I am saying, is that the evidence is here and it's out now. And, you know, it's out now. Let's say that just the bits of it are coming out now. Yeah, again, it's only the touch of a huge iceberg, but it has begun. We are in this time where there needs to be the meltdown to create the new. So the 4D is melting down. So for ones that are just awakening and watching this, what I wish is, again, to direct you, go online, look at your alternate news sources, do your homework. Anything we say, check it out for yourself. And I can guarantee you, you will confirm every bit of what we say. And, and for some easy looking, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the acronym ICIJ, and their extensive work that they have done and released to the public, uh, papers such as LuxLeaks, um, the Swiss leaks, Panama Papers, again, and many more. What they were showing you within these are all the corrupt links to politicians and governments and to corporations. But what that reveals to you again is only the surface of a much deeper thing, what was going on with how they move money around the planet, which is going to be exposed as well. And I alluded to this before. So there's that much up that the public did not have to dig much to get. There's that much here that's, a lot of proof. But what I'm saying is that while there's that much there, There's a whole lot down here that you're only seeing a little bit of it. And all of this down here will be exposed as well, because again, everything ever written on the internet can be retrievable by anyone at any time with the right tools to do it. And what I will say, that the right tools are out there to do it. So that means there's a big thing here as well with more incontestable proof. But what it's also showing you is that the governments and the elite have zilch of a chance of
Yeah.
ever doing anything again. This is imminent. It is happening.
Yeah.
The evidence is, yeah, it's totally staggering what is here. And I love this little piece. So the ICIJ, again, what we have up here in Canada is the CBC, is one of the mainstream media's. CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It was, yeah, I believe now it's a government corporation again now. Perhaps it doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that in the early days we have CBC, which was one of the main medias in Canada. You have the ICIJ. They come out with these Panama Papers, revealing a lot of even the Canada Revenue Agency, how they were involved in kind of like a shady deal where a Ponzi scheme deal and avoiding taxes. And here you have the Canadian Revenue Agency involved in a tax scheme to rip off German people of tax dollars. Like, it's absolutely hilarious and preposterous, but it is the blatant.
Yeah.
So you have the ICIJ and many more politicians. So you have the ICIJ. They call up CBC and said, "Hey, you've got to get this information out to your people. Like it's in the public's interest."
Public interest, yes.
Yeah. CBC says, "No, we can't do that." So, because the government don't want to get out to the people the truth. So the ICIJ says, "Okay, that's good. You do what you wish. We're putting it all out everywhere else. And what we're going to do, where we're putting out all of this news, it's going to spread on the internet. What we are going to do is we're going to make a list of any of the medias that would not run the news." And and then the moment that they do that, it put CBC right on the spot, that they had to make a choice. Do they conceal this important truth from the Canadian people, or do they report on it? Well, actually, they made the choice and did the right thing, and they reported on it, and they did several articles on it and looking at different aspects. And but that is only because we have some angels within CBC as well. And before that, prior to it, something extensive as that going to the CBC, there were ones that were getting fired, forced out of their jobs, and also, let's say, leaving their jobs because again, they were awakening in respect to that. So very great.
Yeah, things are moving and shifting and happening, which is great.
The
yellow vest.
Oh, sorry. If I may, So it's showing you actually how the people controls the media. You can control them, and you do. It's a process, and the media has to submit to the people. And again, with the press, they have no choice. And Trump is doing an excellent job, like JFK did, in showing to the people the reality. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so true. I was going to still say something, but I'm not going to say that. The yellow vest movement.
Okay.
A lot of, yeah.
Okay, so the yellow vest movements, again, I don't watch mainstream media, and
Yeah.
some do, and we get some reports back. But generally, when I did do a search a few weeks ago, like on our mainstream medias here, like in Canada and them ones in the U.S., there was literally none to no updates. Like what I found was a couple weeks old, while in fact, these protests are expanding globally. They are expanding in numbers, and it was very blatant to see again that the public's interest of the world
Yeah.
was being conditioned and suppressed and censored from them again in attempts to control.
Hmm.
So, uh, having said that, I got to turn off my chat. I'm distracted too. Uh, so, having said that, where was I? What was I speaking about?
About the yellow vest movement.
Oh yeah.
We're
Okay.
talking about the
Yeah.
yellow vest movement.
Yeah. So to share with your viewers, very impressively, I put a post on earlier today on my timeline, showing as well as how more and more Canadians are
Hmm.
also uh, supporting a yellow vest movement here in Canada. There's pockets of protesters across Canada, but you also see them getting bigger. They're being armed with legal instruments that they need, which is very impressive, very intelligent, and it's again what it's doing. It's taking the power fully away from the government because these
Hmm.
people are knowledgeable in the laws of Canada as well. And the
Hmm.
way laws were designed, it was actually designed to implode upon itself. And what many are discovering that by using these laws that were supposed to be for the people and enforcing them, that it is
Yeah.
taking the power away from governments and that they must submit again to the people. So this is the transition, and it's just
Hmm.
totally gratifying to see that expanding in Canada because what we had was so much was happening in the US, but again, the US was the first domino to fall and to begin all of this revelation, and the people supporting that to various degrees, and the alternative medias are mostly out of the U.S., sharing
Yeah.
as much of the truth. Like you had ones like Google, YouTube, Facebook was censoring a lot of this truth, but we are very
Instagram.
ingenious, and we have everything we need. So we always find the channels, and we create other ones that you actually. What it is that Google and Facebook and all of these, they must either submit, cease or decease because of what they are doing as well. And what you can look at with this is so far any of the censoring that has been done by Google, YouTube,
Yes.
Facebook, Twitter,
Instagram.
it, what you can look at, they already created criminal acts
Hmm.
contrary to the public
Yeah.
interest. And also there is negligence
Yeah.
involved in that on different contracts of law as well, which can be administered. So right at this time, really, they are incriminated. They have incriminated themselves and judged themselves by their actions by deciding to go with the 1% of the money and try to help the 1%, the elite,
Yeah.
keep control over the people and keep them enslaved. So let's
Yeah.
say they have already made that choice, as well as CNN and some of the other medias. It just it's so blatant, and and really it's very sad, like when you see like CNN or you know, the ones working there coming out and telling the false stories, not telling the truth. And but what's sad about it is that you'll have, you know, a mainstream media station on like that, but it's all the viewers that are watching it are not supporting it. Common sense, and all the viewers have common sense, and a lot of them, you know, watch it for just entertainment and laughing. Like, how ridiculous can it really, you know, how pathetic are these people to even work there and support this and, you know, promote a falsity to the public. And in that respect, you know, Trump is exactly right, and John F. K. was. And this is very important, you know, in John F. K.'s venture uh, in the 60s to free the American people from the enslavement of the IRS and the Fed. Trump has been doing the same things to do that. But what's also interesting, and any of you can go and you can find this online, John F. K. also, you know, gave the press a choice because the same thing occurred then. The press would not report all of the truth. And John F. K. made a famous press speech as well, if you look at it in its entirety. And he's telling, you know, the press, okay, smarten up. You know, this is for the people. So even back then in the 60s, you know, well, it was fully acknowledged. Like when John F. K. made his famous speech, he publicly come out and he told the people that things is not as it seems, that there is these corrupt societies that are controlling everything. So what you have is Trump, you know, catching up to where John F. K. was, and John F. K. again. John F. K. But Trump's got to do this, and he's going to do it, you know, very quickly on the lower timeline. But John F. K. actually began printing currency on by using silver as the bullion backing for it. And but you know, Trump, what he's going to do, and as I said, this is very important because I alluded to it the other night. Because of the size of the economies and the monies that was created in fiat, it takes a very huge, substantial amount of bullion or anything to back that anymore. And having said that, again, for Trump to make that certain announcement, you know, pretty well convincingly, that he can have a gold backed currency. And for him to make that statement, that is an incredible amount of gold to do it. And, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, so about speaking of the gold, so don't lose your thought, but I just wanted to interject because on his speech in Miami about Venezuela, he did talk about the gold.
Oh, did he, Linda?
Yes. Yes, he did talk about that. So he alluded, you know what I mean, that there's a lot of millions or billions of dollars. I'm not quoting him, but there's a lot of money out there, right? So so it's definitely in the forefront for sure.
Indeed, and I will add, not given to the public, there has been a lot of gold seizures from criminal activity, which is piling up as well, which was confiscated. And there were politicians involved in that in the U.S. as well. And there was major black market gold rings in Florida and the southern states as well. There's some information that's released publicly on that. But let's say Barrick is also connected to that, the World Monetary Fund, and because they are part of the black market. But really, what they do is they run the black market in the market that they show to the public. So it's like having two sets of books again, is what they actually do. And they move gold around and say, oh, that's criminals there, you know. And once in a while they'll say, okay, we seized a little bit of gold, we caught them, you know, and we're, you know, to make it look good, and it's all illusion, and it is totally a farce. But what has occurred? You know, there's been some gold confiscated, but in reality, as I referred and alluded to in our last show, that every resource upon the planet has been delineated. What's in the ground, not even excavated yet. Everything is known. So again, it's very easy once it has world acceptance to accept precious mineral deposits in the ground by the technology that delineates them. Once on a global scale it is accepted, then you don't need to exhume or extract the resource to bang. Yeah, just overnight you can announce a currency on that. And in fact, you know, that some of with Zimbabwe as well, which is I heard some things on that you know, they have considerable gold. But not only them, again, you have to look at what is known. Afghanistan, extremely rich in many minerals, not only oil and things, but it's mostly minerals actually in Afghanistan. But Indonesia as well. And that was, oh wow, that eluded me again, because I rechecked on this, because I brought up about Indonesia and BRICS in our last show. But what I wanted to add it with the BRICS, so they made it look like a scam, and saying that geologists salted the drill results. You know, when they say salted, they mean, you know, getting a bunch of gold and putting it in there and making it look good. That is what the governments and whatever presented to the people, but that's not what occurred. And what's very interesting, if you go to these jungles of if you go to the jungles where this BRICS had this gold find, what you will find is the indigenous communities all out around the gold find, out on the perimeters of the jungle, and even inside. They have these beautiful, some of them big as your fist and bigger, solid gold carvings and things what they have molded, right? You know, just solid gold. So it is totally indicative of what is in there, because that is the source. So again, but these are the games that the cabal and the elitists played, you know, to rob these sort of things from the people. They knew they were there, but they don't say nothing. Then you have, you know, legitimate geologists looking for gold, and wow, they get a big find, but then boom, government comes in, Barrick Gold comes in, then they orchestrate a thing with BRICS to make it look like a scam. Then they get rid of the guy in the helicopter, and John Felderhoff, he is exiled somewheres else, and I spoke with him personally, and he, you know, he wouldn't say much because he knew of all of what it actually said, but he did find it in his heart to more or less say, Rick, the gold is there. And the investment that I was in, the same sort of thing with BRICS occurred, but I'm well versed in geology and the markets and all of that, everything with the industry to a certain respect, and mining, and you know, but having said that, one of the investments that I'm in up here in Canada, and this will be coming out as well, perhaps more of the truth, is that they try to do the same sort of thing. So right now, what they have is all the investors in this, like it's a total loss, but no, it's not, because there was other things going on, and it's very interesting. So with this investment that I was in, it's a huge gold find, but they said it's not, more or less, right? One of the head geologists, because I always loved this. One time I was speaking with the head geologist, and I was asking him all these questions, and he laughed. He said, "Rick," he said, "don't worry, the gold is there." And I said, "I know the gold is there." So
Yeah.
this was very comical that you get a contradiction with the head geologist that did all the work on the property. He accredited all the gold samples and everything, and also I knew it. But you have him saying, yes, it's there. And I said, yeah, I know it is. But what's comical is that then they drill the property and it shows nothing.
Yeah.
And we have geophysics also, like it shows the way geophysics works. And this is how they can actually delineate resources. The geophysics shows not one huge deposit underground, but several. And what's so interesting is that so it shows geophysics shows these deposits, and what it is, it's impossible to drill that and not have any appreciable gold and copper because the geophysics is set up to register the minerals. So, and it's so comical with this investment up here because the BC securities, as I mentioned earlier, here in Canada, us investors had documented a huge case and things. And what occurs is that the BC securities doesn't see anything. But what you're supposed to have in the BC securities is you have very professional geologists. And yet, they don't find anything wrong. But also, on the other hand, among the shareholders that know the gold is here, you have several professional geologists that know it's there as well. And what we have, it's just so blatant. But I kind of got, but it was important because I wanted to bring that up because it's St. Elias Mines. You'll be seeing perhaps at least maybe on the 4D timeline some of that coming up, and it can very well be connected to where Trump is going to get his gold from as well. So some interesting things may be occurring here in the near future.
Yeah, I love that. Well, it was something you said earlier too. What I wrote down was it's the people are taking back their authority, which is what we've been talking about from the very beginning. Become sovereign, to take back our authority. So that's really what the people are starting to do that are really realizing what's going on here, and that also a lot of we don't have the mainstream media reporting all this, but we have so many channels that have popped up on alternative news that have gathering from other channels that are actually bringing all of this up. So, I mean, in fact, there's more of those channels than there are of the mainstream media. You know what I mean? That you can find that are reporting. So, yeah. So, which I think is awesome.
There. Yeah, it's much more. It's penetrating, all areas of the globe, and it's getting there, and it is doing it. These little groups, and and again, it's expanding so very rapidly. So again, we control the mass media because you don't need to directly control it. You build the alternative, which just pushes it out of the way because once people support it, it can no longer exist. And
exactly.
And with the alternative news, what you have come with this is all the truth and the documents and all of this, and you got Trump is in this as well because this is what he's exposing, and part of that too. So it's very interesting, and it's also important to look at certain times. One thing with that wall with Trump is what I do not support. But let me say, that is not what it appears sometimes. So you may have a scapegoat.
Yeah, I also wrote down too, which has to do with the Trump as well, that you know, I had heard in one of the other videos, he's got to cut off the heads of the snake, right? Before he can actually reveal a lot of things. So he's strategically, and you and I have talked about this too, he's strategically doing things that he has to do. I mean, even if you look at his tweets and you look at all the, you know, the different things that he does, it looks like he's misspelling words. He's not. He's letting the people know, right? The ones that are of the dark, right? That, hey, I know what's going on, which they already know anyway. So, but, you know, just for anybody who's out there that, you know, it may look like he's obnoxious, you know, which, you know, he's got a different personality, but he really is strategically setting things and getting things prepared for this push of what's to come, you know. But he is talking about this money and stuff, and in the Venezuela video, he also did say that we will become sovereign. And so, I mean, he's using those words. He's using prosperity. We will be prosperous again, freedom again. So really everything that the Constitution, the original Constitution, was supposed to stand for. And so, and he was alluding to a lot of things, even though he was speaking about Venezuela, he was actually referencing the United States as well, you know. So in what he was saying, with even all the different countries, and like you said, with all these other countries, which I think when all these other countries, China and all of them, agree to all this whole money thing is what it sounds like from our show the other night. And from what he was saying in that speech, Nicaragua, all these different countries that are very, very wealthy, he's gonna bring them back to the wealth that they originally had. And so he talked about humanitarian projects. So, I mean, I was just really impressed for the fact that, you know, he's got this, you know what I mean? And he's just strategically doing it in a way that he knows when this is needs to be brought out. And that we are, like I said, you talked about the gold too. So, you know, I'm sure, and I know we can, you know, the Zims and the dinar and the dong and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Linda, for watching that. As I said, I didn't watch it all, and you know, when you mentioned humanitarian projects, but when you mentioned sovereignty and democracy, you know, very important. Like in Canada, there is no democracy. There was no democracy anywhere upon the planet the way that people expect the definition of a democracy to be, the freedom and the sovereignty. It was not there. And again, you know, what he is doing step by step strategically is restoring the power back to the people, the same way JFK did, you know, and so many. I connected with JFK there. I almost started to cry. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh, I love him. Oh, yeah. I would be crying with you because he was my favorite.
But it's given the power back to the people to create the democracy as well, only as a temporary thing, because, you know, we're going to swiftly transition out of that once the people has the control. Because in fact, you know, all the politicians in Canada, and they're all bought. They were all bought to certain degrees. Now, they may say they're oblivious to it, but no, they're not. Because, again, and all of the people know it. See, like, even up in Canada, where the politicians, what we have is, you know, they're supposed to be representatives of the people. Yet, centuries after centuries, what the people need, they don't have. And you see the politicians living lives of luxury with, you know, $100,000 pensions after working 4 years, like, you know, all the atrocities and just hilarious and absolutely ridiculous. But part of the yellow vest movement, again, what I mentioned about up in Canada, there's many meetings being set up right across Canada to this effect. And one of the things is getting the people to sign and endorse and join together certain instruments to retain their sovereignty, but also the legal basis for it is there, meaning that if it's put before any court of Canada in the justice system, it cannot go against it, because if they do, then it's going to immediately implode the justice system as well. So it's what I'm saying is that all avenues for the darkness that was there in the corrupt elite and the governments is cut off. It is. And now they're being squeezed in more and more. And what you're seeing coming out of the woodworks are the good ones with consciousness, but you're also seeing some of these that are very afraid. So they're resigning and stepping down as well, because like the Star Trek movie, resistance is futile for any of the targets.
They're pretty much they're
so if we
down.
The Borg collective, and that's what they would say. So let's say they're up against the Christ collective, and I got 1111 here, so I got a confirmation. It's a EFT is 1111. So
I love it. Our 811.
We have the Christ collective, and anyone just waking up, we got this all covered. It's a matter of time, and
which we're going to talk into going into the 5D, transitioning to the 5D after we kind of, which I think we're almost to getting that point too.
May you excuse me for one moment? I got to use the washroom.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you guys thank you everybody who's joined in, and sorry we had a little bit of technical problems at the beginning of the show. I was not, my computer would not allow me to connect on my picture here. So thanks for hanging in there, and thanks for everybody that's joining us. And again, we talked a lot about, just because the title of the show was a 4D perspective of world economics and the transitioning into the 5D. So Rick wanted to give the people who are just awakening an idea of what's kind of been going on, and with the dark ones and stuff like that, and just the bankings and the governments and stuff like that. Even though we know that, it's just really more for them, just to bring them up to speed, and then move into the transitioning into the 5D. So Rick talked about some Canadian cases, just people who are resigning and things like that. Great stuff that's happening, that the people are starting, well, they have been for a while, really taking back our sovereignty. And Lawrence Wendell talked about this in our interview as well. And we've talked about this, and I think Anthony Wheelie talked about it, Anthony Wheelie did too, is taking back our sovereignty. So it's taking back our authority, and not giving in to the banks and the IRA, and being connected and detaching from all of that, which we'll tap into when we start talking about the transition to 5D. I was just reiterating, recapping.
Yeah, awesome. And very good. So, some of the transitional temporary measures will be, like in the U.S., the militaries will be a lot with this at this time, because as you eliminate the ones from government, even let's say some bureaucracies and agencies, there needs to be a certain quotient there positioning as well, because a lot of governmental bureaucracies and not needed. Amplified going here into the future with the people. And as I said before, all economics is changing, and it has to. So you're not going to have an economic model like you had before. Everything is going to change. It's going to be streamlined. It's going to be more effective, and it's going to be supported by the people, not the other way. So but first, before you get there, you need to drain the swamp, like Trump says. But the swamp is worldwide, that's being drained in respect to that.
It's huge.
And you know, this process, we know it's close at hand, but you know, we say it's soon, but no one really at this time, I don't believe, has a full date on it. You just got to keep moving forward, keep informed, and trust that. And at this point, because of this most auspicious critical point we are at, I suggest for any of the viewers, assure that you know, you have food and water, good water on hand, and have some cash, you know, maybe just to do you for a week or two, especially in the US. That might be
Yeah.
maybe, you know, more extensive. It's good to have those things in Canada, you know, for water and things. It's a little bit, and our population is lower, so it's not as difficult to, let's say, get supplies if there is shutdown up here. Whereas, you know, your cities in the U.S., you have an amazing amount of people in these cities. Up
Yeah.
here, it's a lot more rural too. So, but likewise, anyone around the planet, around Gaia, really, yeah, you should be paying special attention at this time, and just ensure you have some necessities, you know, to do a week or two would be a good idea. You may not need them, but you may, right?
Yeah. I did hear something on a video that uh, Junior had sent me, and it said something about a lockdown. They're looking at a possible lockdown. So, which to me means like the martial law. So
Well,
that's a
well,
possibility. So if that happens,
indeed,
that's yeah, yeah. So you want to
and
be
also
prepared for that
see,
here.
yeah, the borders need to be secured as well. So this is also part of the reason why. Um, I said before, the wall, especially the US side, was kind of like a guise for something else as well. So you have increased patrolling along there, but
Yeah,
what has been presented is a reason to have increased enforcement along there by, you know, caravans coming up or whatever. So
yeah,
you have this reason to increase the patrol and to strategically place many along the borders as well. Because what's going to occur with this, and it's already occurring, is that when you start bringing down the criminal elite drug groups and cartels and these sort of things, it's not going to stop at the top. You know, you have
no,
many subsidiaries of that everywhere. And I can assure you, out of 73,000 indictments, so that number will go into the millions if you really want to calculate it at a later date of
yeah,
all that were affected, and as indirect results from one indictment can incur and implicate many more. And this is also why Trump is bringing back as many of the troops. They are
that's
going to
right.
be needed to
Mhm.
secure borders and to facilitate much of the
Good.
changeover and the transition as well.
Yeah. Well, in the
But let
cities too. I mean, because if he's bringing out this information, there's going to be a lot of hot people. So
hey,
I think he's preparing for that as well, because a lot of people, that when they hear this stuff, it's going to be, what the heck,
well,
you know.
and you know, Linda, a lot of the public were misled and falsely
I
informed
know.
on what's
Yeah.
going on. You know,
Yeah.
and they uh, the mainstream medias that was not reporting the truth were actually conditioning a lot of
Yeah.
the public to
Right.
go into a fear, chaotic state because they're
Hmm.
misinformed and they were conditioned that way. So, yeah, you know, you need a certain security to prevent huge chaotic uprisings, but they
Yeah.
won't be huge. But I mean, to
Yeah.
lessen the confusion as well, because this is a
Right.
very meticulous uh, strategic, and there are many, the dynamics of it, there are many parts, many components of it. And yes, you need to look at all things to assure the smoothest outcome for all, because you also don't want, one thing we are not is, you do not wish any harm to come to any people.
Right.
So you need to establish a more a stronger than anyone has ever seen, you know, right within the U.S. and even Canada and some of these other countries.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah. Okay, so we talked the ZIM issue, new currency on par with the world currency. I mean, you talked a little bit about the ZIMs, the rates aren't correct. Oh, well, we should really talk about that, because the main holders of the, of the bonds, there's an important aspect of that. You're freezing.
Well, it is. What I'm seeing, you know, some of the dimensions, I believe. Yeah. How about now?
You're kind of breaking up a little bit here and there. Not a flow. Oh, okay, so he's going to call back. Oh, he'll call back. Yeah, so he's going to talk about the on the ZIMs, the main holders of the bonds. The holders will be contacted. So if anybody's got bonds out there, I do. So let's see if he's better when he gets back on here. There you are. Yeah, that sounds, well, I mean, I can hear in the background, so. You want to talk about the ZIMs?
Hey, there you are. Touch on that. What I'm saying is that, you know, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's still kind of breaking up a little bit. Stay still. Don't move.
Can you hear me, Linda?
Yes, yes. Oh.
Okay, so and 24 cents. My comments.
Going Matrix, right?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now it seems pretty good. So the ZIMs.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some figures thrown around, some rates like 14 cents, 24 cents for the Zimbabwe bonds. That is. Gosh. Are you there?
Yes, I was waiting to see if you're going to come back. 14 to 24 cents, but that's not correct. Correct? Is that what you were saying? Oh, you're freezing. You're freezing. Oh, he's going to try it again. Yes, we're going Matrix, Joseph. Oh, gosh. And then the main holders, they will contact the subgroups of the ZIMs. 44 viewers. Woo. New age words. Can you hear me now? It's a Verizon commercial. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, kind of. You're bleak in and out, but let's see if we can roll with it.
Yeah, these rates, what's being shown, the 14, 24 cents, things may be much higher later on. There's humanitarian projects that are attached to these bonds and currencies. And should this shortly, and it looks like it already is, let's say those numbers, how will I put it? That may be an initial payout on those, that there could be more later, because it is way below where it should be, and anyone should consider that all currencies have to go to par with this during the transition, meaning bonds and currencies, your dong, your Vietnam dong, and your dinar. But let me say the minimum should be $1. But what I was showing several months ago, I was on an actual timeline where these bonds currency time at $1.63, I believe, US, which was a very handsome rate. And what I'm saying with these Zimbabwe bonds and also the currency is that anything lost at $1 really is not acceptable. Now they may be, you know, initially, because of the amount of money that are involved initially, in an increment of that, and uh, perhaps maybe the case, and I would love that, but no, not me. What I'm saying is,
we kind of got a little bit of that. It's going in and out. But you were saying it's not the case, but it may be in the initial beginning. Can you hear me? Rick, can you hear me? Oh, really? Saint Germain? Huh. I don't think Rick can hear me. Let's see.
am I?
Can you hear me, Rick?
Can you guys hear me? Is it Linda gone, or is it I? Can someone put a comment? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good, Lori. Me good?
I don't know if that came. Rick, can you hear me? Let me see if that. You can't hear me.
Hmm.
Oh, Don, you can hear both of us? Like I can hear Rick, but he can't hear me. Up. Okay, well I did. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, let's see. No. Oh gosh. Okay, he's going to try and come back in. But you guys can hear me okay? Okay. Oh, well, I had told him I could hear. So, Debbie, you hear us both. Lori, you hear us both. I wonder why he's not hearing me. 111 comments. I love that. No, he doesn't hear. Rick? Rick, is your volume up? C2 only hear one. Oh, okay, you see both of us, but you only hear me. Huh, interesting.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes. I don't know if you can even see me. Oh, gosh.
Yes, I can see you.
Yeah. Is your mic on or muted?
Yeah, I can
Thanks,
hear
Janelle.
you and see you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but Rick, you're not hearing me. Yeah, but see, we can hear
Yes.
Rick. Oh, can you hear
No, I
me?
can hear you. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet. Okay. Yay. Okay. I think we're back from wherever we were at, jumping a timeline. Just, yeah, bunch of numbers. We're in Matrix land, or we're somewhere. I don't know. Time. I would rather say we're in some sort of a. Somebody said 5D timeline, 5D timeline, 3D camera for you. Okay, so we're talking about the ZIMS and about the currency, and you were saying 24 to or 14 to 24 cents, but it'll probably go higher. But we want to talk about that. The people who are holding the bonds, as you know, the holders of the bonds, will be contacted. Well, what do you want to say about the ZIMS? Uh-oh. Rick, are you there?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Can you see me?
Okay, they can hear
Thumbs up.
us both. Okay, great. What does not then? It does not make full. It's going to occur with the full RE and the reset of currency. So what I'm saying is that there are only rates for the ZIM bonds. Now also these ones will because it is known to the main uh, who they are, and also some of these main holders have subgroups out as well, PX in the currencies. So that will be rolling out. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to reiterate because you kind of broke up a little bit. So what you're saying is that the ZIM currency, the main holders will be contacted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything else you, the main holders you had said that they will contact the subgroups once they get connected, and that pricing or that quote on there could change, or it might be that for now.
Indeed, as well.
Okay.
Enforcement of the bonds to subgroups by some of the main holders as well, to assure a more substantial security on them for safekeeping as well. So saying bond knowing who they are, and they will inform their subgroups numbers, and there will be instructions see how to do it. This is right now any if any of the viewers hold these bonds or hold these currencies, just to read and just stay under profile and continue coming out, and so you can keep yourself up to date and be contacted.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything.
So like I said before. Now, you will be contacted. Yeah. Like if anyone that got bonds, you know who you got them from.
Oh, goodness. He must have a lot of energy. Danielle, okay, you've got that room full of crystals and stuff, and so they must be activated. He said there was a lot of energy in that room. Can you comment on conscious interaction with the machine matrix and the manipulation of electric spirit? Paige, I don't know if we're going to do Q&A yet. If we have time, we might be doing it at the end of the show. Hey, Rick. I hope it's better.
Hey.
Poor Rick. Oh.
Everything is fine here on this end.
Yeah, there just must be a lot of energy in the room. I told Daniela she's got her crystals are really activated highly tonight. So, oh.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Hopefully it's fluid like flow.
Okay, great. I suggest if we can go to another topic.
Yes. What did you want to talk about? Yes. Do you want to talk about the 33,000 that are in Asia that already started with those Zims?
Oh. No, that's not.
Not Zims. Not Zims. Yes.
Zims, but this is
form of collateral. Yeah.
I wish to share with the viewers some information that, let's say, collateral. Roughly, and for simplicity's sake, you can look at collateral counts as huge reserves of wealth that were humanity as well. So, along the same sorts of principles as bonds and currencies that certain light workers and angels have. So what has occurred, what I've been given, it's from a good friend. He informed me just the other day that in Asia, there are now 33,000 approximately that have cards to access to at least, I believe, one collateral account to begin humanitarian projects as well. So they have a card and they have access to a certain amount of financial monies to begin to implement humanitarian projects. So that's what I received. So you are seeing it come into fruition as well, where the great funds are indeed being released, but in a very not a stringent way, but in a very just trying to find a word. They're being in a very monitored way, and very governed and very precise is how they're being delivered. And but the access is occurring is what is important. for my information. Yes.
Who's deciding that? Like, is it the Chinese government?
Not per se. See, what
Did he say?
what ones need to also realize and understand that there are there are so many humanitarian projects and different monies and different groups that have been working on freeing accounts. For instance, you have Neil Keegan that some may be familiar with, was looking on. He's been fighting uh, the cabal sides to release a lot of Southeast Asian funds as well. Uh, so, having said that, there have been many groups that have been working on things in Australia, the Aborigine groups, but many groups have also worldwide have connected. So they are not separated. They are a very healthy network. They have grown behind the scenes as well. And their work and their implementation of groundwork for this time has been secured, and it needed to be, as well as the old financial systems collapsed. These had to be all prepared to quickly come in and facilitate the needs of the people during the transitions. So again, there was just an immense amount of groundwork and ingenious design to set it all up accordingly and properly, and to cause the least amount of stress and chaos on the unbeknownst public. And this is also where the galactics have played a huge part in this as well, in assisting and guiding and protecting key members in the initial stages of the process several years ago. So let me say that it's been all assured, and even some of your viewers will say that if they were human, they would have been killed several times, but they are still here, and the very reason is because you cannot be in that respect. So, having said that, because everything is divinely assured that it has to go through, and by no way am I threatening anyone, because I don't need to do it, especially the cabal. But what I wish to let the viewers know is that we also have the other galactic complement, that if ships need to land, they can in less than a blink of an eye as well. Or you could just take the veil from the sky and look up, and all you're going to see is ships. So the bases are all covered, and it's for the easy transition of humanity as well. And it's very important to understand that there are many timelines with this. We are constantly creating more timelines. We have just, in the recent past, created another higher, huge timeline, hence many ascension symptoms that were incurred by many with that, and what you may say it's discomfort, but it was birthed by the ones that endured. It was birthed directly by the ones that incurred the most discomfort. They were, and this gets kind of higher, but I'll keep it simple like that. So these ones are very powerful creators. So what they were doing, let's say in the astral realms, it was physically reflected back into their physical vessels as well. Now that might sound totally absurd, but see, it's how it works, because everything that you are and everything in reality is reflected It's a reflection of energy, the way it's composed and put together. So when have angels here that are working, that are actually energy, and they're working from an organic state, there is side effects that come back into the organic body, like my breast swelling up and in my belly there, during this birthing of the new timelines, and this occurred. We have done it. Thank you. My belly is now residing on its own, and that shows us that we have created, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, we have created another higher timeline for many of us to enjoy. And we began that, I believe, in early January, when we put out the message for the feminine to go forward at that time. And so by going forward, they changed many things very rapidly, and it allowed for a higher, newer timeline to be created as well. So, one thing you need to keep in mind, all of the viewers, what you may see in your surroundings or your outside reality one day can change in the blink of an eye, because you are not restricted to one timeline nor one dimension. So, to cut down on any confusion, I reiterate, just be aware that you are able to quickly occupy another timeline where things can be different. So, and it can be fun with this. So, no need for any alarm, just recognize it, uh, and deliver it. Oh, and at this point in time, Linda, in our last interview, the lady I mentioned about the dollar store and the kitchen store.
Yes, yes, the kitchen.
She got back to me today. She's saying, I didn't fully read her text because I was busy tonight, but as she is saying, there's still something weird going there, that the store, it's now both a kitchenette and a dollar-rama, but she says it's possible it was like that first, if I understand. Now, I didn't fully read the text, but what I always need to do is just let the viewers know that what I had said before, and I had mentioned when I was sharing that is the way I understood it. It seems like it might be a little bit different. Nevertheless, I did see her put the word something. It is weird anyway, without reading all of her text. So, but I know that these things are very real, and I do not lie. I cannot lie. But if there's any times like that there may seem to be a discrepancy, I must always rectify it. So, just in case. But I know I'm very meticulous with my words. When I said first that was the way I understood it from her at that time. So what I'm saying, it seems like it varied a little bit, but nevertheless, the 5D overlay is indeed very real.
Awesome. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Did you want to go on to the next one? You have LIBOR. What's LIBOR? LIBOR. What's that? I don't know what that is.
Oh, the LIBOR. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, the LIBOR, yeah, that goes back to 4D, but it's an example of the banks. Back then, they were creating the huge, LIBOR was the fixing and manipulation of interest rates, what the banks had did. And many banks colluded in that. And, what it did to mortgages that people were paying in the past, their mortgage payments and paying interest, it actually took, even from a few, what they would say, pennies a month or whatever, out of their pocket. The volume, it was huge, and the amount of money was staggering. What was pillaged, not only from the people, but also from the economies, and putting further tax burdens upon the people. So the way that the law enforcement agencies globally tackled that was really what you had seen were fines that were only 1% of the actual crime caused, and also you saw the banks allowed to keep functioning. And
Yeah.
the main problems with that, it clearly and blatantly shows that here is a bank in criminal activity, but they're allowed to do it, and they're allowed to rob the people, and they keep their license. So again, it just shows you the corruption by the governments and the enforcement agencies to actually pay the banks for perpetrating the crime, or just getting a cut from it. You can look at it like 10%. Bank makes 100 million. Government will fine them $10 million, but it's not really a fine because they give the bank the ability to admit to no wrongdoing. And by doing that, then there is no criminal record, which is, again, actually preposterous. And they expect a public to accept that, which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And the public doesn't accept it. That's how come I'm speaking about it, and how come we all know about it, or, a big percentage anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to go into the 5D? I mean, we talked about, did you want the real price of gold?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about gold. Did you want to talk about that, to $10,000 to $20,000 per ounce?
Yeah, I'd like to mention that because that may be on part of a timeline where your precious metals will have to, if they are going to facilitate, let's say Trump is going to facilitate a gold-backed currency, if he does not take, as I mentioned, from the other resources, there would be another option of taking the banks out of manipulating the price of resources like gold or precious metals. And by doing that, and also when you very quickly, you can do with simple math, when you know the amount of monies that are out there, and when you know how much gold is actually in the world, and when you know how much you need to cover of that, then you can dictate what the price of gold is. So to do that, what I'm saying at this time, I don't know, gold might be 12. They have it manipulated and controlled, might be 1,200 bucks an ounce. But I mean, to facilitate the world debt, one way they have to do is to let the real price of gold reflect the money that they have printed, which would put the price of gold. I didn't. I just put a $10,000 or $20,000 figure out there because I saw that passed around several years ago. But if they were to do that, again, what you would see, ridiculous price of gold. It could be up to $50,000 an ounce, right? But this is the ridiculous box that they have put their economics in, for determining prices of things. Again, this is why it does not work, and that it has to come down. But I had wished to throw that out there because, with silver, totally manipulated again for many years. Like the real value of silver, actually, in conjunction with the price of gold, should be hundreds of dollars an ounce. I haven't checked lately because I'm not in the markets trading anymore, but I kind of know there was periods down there 15, 17 bucks a few years ago when it actually should have been, up in the 30s or 40s then. And also, the price of gold, if it was to keep caught up with the economics that the world was given to the people, the price of gold several years ago should have been about $5,000 or $1,000 then announced. But again, it's been manipulated by the banks in collusion with the governments, and it's all about, you know, in reality, money does not matter in the past to the banks or the governments because they always can print for themselves, for their own pockets. But they need to create an illusion, a show, for to keep control of the public by making all of these tax regimes and all of these cyclical things to keep and administer that control while they actually enjoyed living off the hog, if you wish to use that pun or what have you. But again, you know, consciousness has expanded that no longer can that foolishness exist in these new realities.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Okay. We talked a little about the JFK, the press, execution orders, Trump's, you know, he's doing the same. We already talked about that. Trump following right into JFK's footsteps. I don't know if you, the takedown of the Vatican, false images of God, which we know that is coming down. I think that's another one that's coming up really soon, is that they're going to go into the Vatican.
Yeah, so
on there.
So to those awakening again, yes, the Vatican, you're seeing that right in your mainstream media. Enough has been revealed on that. The Vatican was perhaps one of the richest, if not the richest institution upon the planet. And very quickly, what I wish to say, if by being the richest institution upon the planet, if it had good intent, it would not have had stores of gold and stores of wealth as well. So, and many investments and lands and yeah. So, you know, much has been revealed with all that, and the falsity of the Catholic Church is it has been, you know, pretty well totally revealed for what it is. And this is not to say, Linda, you know, that one's practicing the Catholic religion that they are bad. No, you know, everyone needed something and had a foundation. And, you know, within every religion, there are fundamentals, you know, of the morals and ethics. And that's what each one takes. And, you know, the Catholic religion was perhaps one of the biggest in the world. But hey, there's a lot of that were light workers in there. And I know many, you know, that during their course they were Catholic, but you know, they have their fundamentals, which are great, what they learned from that. And you know, this for all of us, it doesn't matter whatever religion, you know, each had to go in there and take the good from it. These are your guiding principles. So but the thing is to discern between what is good for you and what may not, which each one does with their own guidance. But we don't need to get any deeper in that. But what I'm saying is that I'm not degrading ones. But what I will say is the Pope and bishops and the priests and what have you that are being exposed, yes, they have judged themselves by their deeds. And again, God does not judge. Each one judges themselves by their acts that they do.
Yes, amen to that. Child trafficking, that's pretty much out on the news too. The sex slaves, that's been all announced. There's a lot of announcements on that. Do you want to talk on that? That was one of your points.
Yeah, because this gets into a line of what some newly awakened may say is disgusting things. But let me say that there's a lot more there to come out into relation with that as well. And you are also going to see societies some renowned elite societies crumble, like Freemason. It's already in a free fall, if you will. And you have many whistleblowers coming out of there with testimony and documented proof as well. So you are beginning to see anything not divine in the whole societal structure is being taken down. Nothing that is not built on integrity and truth and love and good values will not exist in this new. And it will implode upon itself very rapidly, and it's revealed as it continues to implode, because it cannot be where we are going as well. And for any of the viewers and anyone watching that, that means you are going higher and higher on different timelines to a place where we don't have anything, let's say, less than moral and ethic in the least, and something that is not love. So
yeah, absolutely. And I already talked about that. So the rest of the stuff was just, some stuff that I had, but I already talked about that, the Venezuelan stuff. So you want us to go into so transitioning to the 5D, let's, you want to go into that?
yeah, so very very quickly we can just show that transition. So this whole ascension subject is so broad. So we touched on only a few points to paint and show the factual picture with that. So what's occurring is that in this now, we are at the stage, and where we are going in this near now, to the liberation of humanity and instilling a people-backed democracy, that again is only transitional. And many of you have the abilities in which you know that you just keep going up to higher timelines and more divine, real magic and things that you did never imagined in your early human life that you'd be part of or experiencing it. But it is time, and we are doing it. So, for any of the viewers, everything you are witnessing is only temporary, and we do move toward the full freedom and the no requirement for money at all. But it will depend upon what timelines some of you may get off, and the length of your timeline might be extended where you'll be into monetary transactions, while others may go a little bit higher, and their timeline might only have a short period of that. It's going to vary because it depends also on the choice at the soul levels that was made to what timeline you are going to entertain, and the extent of linear time you wish to attribute to any timeline. But for the ones that keep going higher, as you know, you transcend time and space, and you come to the place where there is no time nor space. And now the other ones that may be getting off on lower timelines, they also come along later on, dependent upon their soul contract. So anyone watching this and anyone awakened, you're all ascending. And it's just that some of you might say, oh, I like this timeline, I'll stay here for a little bit, have fun. And some may say, I want to go up to the next one. So, it depends on your soul choice, but be fully comfortable with every choice that you made. But also, it's I strongly encourage and suggest for each one to keep building up your divine prowess and your divine sovereignty, and keep rising above it. the dark things. We're above that, but many of you love to have a free human experience that you will, on some of these higher timelines, enjoy as we keep going forward. So I'm not given all the information, meaning that I'm not given consciously what is going to occur on these other timelines, and in respect to the galactics. But let me say that there are accessible timelines to the galactic experience at this time, but meaning that they are accessible, but you may not be allowed at this time because, again, there is divine timing in the overall divine plan, which you agree to at the soul level, which dictates what you're allowed to do and where you're allowed to be at.
Yeah. And you'll kind of know that just by what you resonate with, it would feel like.
But it keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, you learn to discern from your resonation feature and some of your gifts. But what happens, the more empowered you become, then you retrieve more of your memory, you retrieve more of what is actually available to you. And it's for now, on these lower timelines, your knowledge is ever expanding into your gifts in your prowess, and you will receive your own messages. And it's very possible, let's say at any time, you could be told, okay, 7 days time, a ship's coming to get you, for instance. But it depends again on one's vibration and frequency and their inner work to keep themselves going up to the maximum ceiling, what is available at the time with the overall vibration that is upon the surface.
Yeah. Do you feel what seems like with whatever Trump's doing is that's going to have a lot to do with us ascending high, ascending more further?
Yeah, indeed, totally. It's totally connected at this time, and for myself, I could not get away from that connection and the pertinence that it does have for these current timelines we are on. So yes, it is connected to that. And what I am told is that I'm going to be, I may be on these timelines with that for a little bit. So yeah, but it is, very, very important, and it is a part of this ascension.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that the time, like I know we can't, there's no really dates, but I've been seeing March 21st pop up on different articles and videos that's a crucial time. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that, Linda, is what I was given way back in December, is that towards the end of March, that everything for us towards the end of March, the 21st, that everything for us in the world as we knew it in the timelines will have substantially changed. I'm not given what. The degree I'm given is substantially. So, that is what, only about a month away. So, So that's what I'm given. And again, no, I don't really put any dates on it, but I am this time, what I was given, that around the end of March, it will be substantially noticeable, the accomplishments of the light. I'm allowed to say that. Yeah, Dad likes that. Yeah, good.
Did you want to do Q&A?
Yeah, if you wish, we can do a little bit. How are you?
Yeah, I don't know how your throat was.
You're the host, girl.
Yeah, listen, we can see if it.
I'm game for anything. Last night I was doing karaoke with two angels here, and we posted it on my timeline. Yeah, to have.
I haven't looked at anything, so I'm just kind of out of the loop right now. I do want to mention that something I wrote down too. I'm just going to reiterate about staying and keeping our vibrations really high, and staying out of the negativity and the fear. I just wanted to kind of reiterate that. There's something else I had a thought about too, but with Trump, but I don't remember what that was. Oh, I know what it was. When do you think that? Well, I know again you can't put any time, but all these patents, because he did talk about he was going to release those
Right.
patents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if by that time, the end of March as well, some of those will be released. And I know Junior was mentioning check out Cobra's blog for more intel information too. So thank you for that. Yeah, so I wonder if that's going to be released by the end of March, those patents as well.
I didn't look at any dates, but yeah, Linda, it would be interesting just to see if there is any subjective dates when that would be released. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
checked on that. And
yeah,
yeah, what you're saying, that would be substantial because it's a lot of the free energy and much more is in there.
oh
Uh,
yeah, those medical beds.
Indeed, yeah, there's a substantial amount of technology. So, yeah, if you look at that being released, perhaps or some of it by the end of March, that is going to substantially change the globe. Yeah, allowing
Yeah,
for the real new technologies to be here. Like what they originally did with 3D printers, and this advanced technology is already here to a limited degree. But what they have, in the forms of replicators, which are very it doesn't replicators can be very easily made. See, it's 1212 now. That's a good number. But replicators, like really with the consciousness what's here now, that so in the technology that yeah, you can build replicators and all of these things with it. So
yeah. I have
could
a
be
question. What
very
about businesses? What about businesses? I mean, if you've got wellness centers, you've got medical spas, you've got all these things. What's going to happen with all that?
what I
Will
suggest.
those still exist?
Uh, Perhaps, but again, they'll only be temporary. But it's done by the individual in good faith to assist as many as you can for us. And you're also working together if you have a business like that to assist others. You're actually assisting each other to rise higher. So with that, anyone that feels compelled to go in that direction, if that's your guidance, go and do it, but be flexible. That to know that, if you're going onto another timeline, you can leave it for someone else on that timeline that's coming along. So don't have any reservations of acting in the now. Don't hesitate. If you feel that, go and do it, is what I suggest with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Did you want to talk? Uh-huh.
essentially, with a lot of the healing, uh, the best way is that empower the individual with the awareness and the knowledge. Then they can heal themselves, and it doesn't have to be a cyclical, repetitive thing. It is the most efficient healing, and that is being it's getting out there more so now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then what about as far as well, I guess that whole the as far as the money system payment, how would they be paid?
With you mean businesses?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, see what will occur with that if you're still on timelines where ones are being healed in centers or whatever. then you are still on a timeline that has a sort of a monetary exchange.
Okay.
So,
Makes
but
sense.
if you advance, above that, because once you integrate your abilities at healing yourself as well, you are then also in higher times where at those levels, money may no longer be required as well. So, you transition, but they are connected to the different levels. So the money does fall away at our higher levels.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. If we're going to open up to questions, we'll just do a question, a few questions for a little. If any questions, I know earlier there was. Yeah.
I love Linda's comment there on Amazing Grace. Linda says, my mom does not like Amazing Grace.
A wrench.
Yeah, she said, I am not a wretch. And I totally agree with that, Linda.
Yes.
We got to rewrite these things. I was kind of hesitant on saying that myself. So tell your mom, Linda, I love her and I fully concur with her. Yeah, that's got to be changed and some other things. Yeah.
Okay. Debbie says online exchange Zim to Canadian dollars shows huge amount of Canadian dollars. So why can't cash in? I'm not understanding.
What they do is they show some of these rates sometimes as well when they're setting up the systems. So they're testing also part of the new quantum financial systems, but also the digital systems. So what they'll do is they'll put imaginary figures out there as well in the digital to monitor the reactions and also to monitor triggers that are put in place to assure security to some degree and to assure that there are no mistakes. So you may see these huge numbers being flashed sometimes when they're testing the capacity of the system to see if it will not overload if there's many transactions done at one time. So they test the capacity and many other things in respect to that as well. Because also, Debbie, many of you, as you know, you need to realize, like Gail Benker said a little bit ago on March 12th, her bank will be all digital. So, what they're preparing also for the new financial system is you're going to have a world interlinked financial system, and all bugs and algorithms need to be checked with that. And during that process of preparing it, this is also why you're seeing many banks being shut down. You're seeing many banks closed, but you're also seeing banks that are oblivious that their system is also being hit to make it compatible with the new systems too. So there are many tests are going on, and to keep it simple. So you do not exchange. There is a set rate that you will exchange at, and with any of your currencies, it more or less will not be a stock market approach of sell, it's high. No, it will not be that way, and so it will be different than that. But to test out the system, you will see different rates reflected, testing the capacity of redemptions at one time and what have you. And also, I'll stop there so we don't get cut off again, because when I get deep into
I know. Because so Paige has a question. Oh gosh, I started to write it down.
I got it here. Can you comment on conscious
Yes.
interaction with the machine matrix and the manipulation of
Mit-
the etheric plane? Yeah, a
Yes.
beautiful question, Paige.
Yeah. Thank you,
Actually,
Paige.
that is part of what where in the areas where the divine angels began to use their gifts. So yes, your conscious interaction by those angels that let's say have not only the higher consciousness,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they have purified their energetic fields that and have refined them, then yes, consciously you can interact with any machine, any matrix, and and I would not say. I know you're saying the manipulation of the etheric plane spirit world. You can say it's a manipulation, but it's a manipulation in a good way always. It is always with the good intent for all. But yes, Paige, totally. As angels, we do that. We have done it in the past. If you had followed, we had different exercises where the results were we did shut down a couple army bases. We took down some, but just by using the mind and the consciousness, because your consciousness in your mind is energy, and also our matrices,
Mhm.
machines
Mhm.
are also energy. So many of you have reached at least the early levels of recognizing that, of being aware of it, and you have been introduced to your inner knowing that yes, it is very factual and it does not
Mhm.
stop there. You are correct.
Mhm. Awesome. That was a great question. Thank you. And June just had a comment. I had foreseen there will be a massive bankrupt. Monetary will no longer encircle a massive block out of power. All electronics and electric magnetic field driven device will be destroyed. Kind of what you're talking, food and water shortage, famine and world panic, uh, world be cleansed, report and love is the ultimate cure to achieve peace. So I just thought I'd
Okay.
mention that one. Yeah.
May
And
I?
then you
Oh,
want to
sorry.
comment to that?
May I say bank runs would be fruitless when you have, uh, let's say, currencies becoming worthless. It
Hmm.
would not matter what you have in the bank. And Anthony Whelan that converted perhaps for some of you on temporary some bank runs from a 4D timeline. They may still occur in some times of panic from that. Um, so, but for the timelines we are on, it is prudent to at least have cash on hand and as we said before, some cash and perhaps water and enough supply for 2 weeks will suffice. It might only be 5 days if you have the other bank shut down. But
Yeah.
bank runs, yes, could happen from misinformed and ill-informed ones that are not fully awakened on the upper 4D timeline, and it's
Yeah.
possible you could uh, reside there and witness some of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for bringing that up. And Elern, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize ahead of time. Her question is electric blanket or heating pad. Does this mess with your or auric elect? Is it auric? Auric, like your auric field electromagnetics.
Uh,
That's a good question.
yeah, yeah. What was her name again, please?
Well, I
Oh,
learn,
yeah. Okay.
you learn.
Um,
I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Sorry if I'm not.
okay. Um, okay, in respect to your question, again, follow your inner guidance on that. You can actually have some fun with it, too, if you wish, because you are energy. But with electric blankets and these sort of things, if it cannot be around you, it won't. And if it is around you, it could be for learning experiences about your energy as well. And also, you can experiment and play with your energy too. So, there's several perspectives that you could look at this, but with something like what you're asking, again, you trust your inner guidance if you should have it around you, if you shouldn't, if you can control it, or what have you. At the end of the day, always trust your inner guidance, your inner knowing, and your connection to divinity on that. But if you have
Awesome.
fun with it, some special effects, please share.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
love that.
Debbie said, thank you so much. Love you both. Love you too, Debbie. Thank you. And Rick said, what about the carbon that is in filters for filtering and purifying water?
Rick, I have to speak my truth. If it's a carbon mechanism that's just your water's not staying in for any period of time, that's okay. But with the carbon, you need to be uh, very careful with that you don't want any contamination from the carbon into what you're drinking or what have you. Because again, a part of this process, dependent upon the individual, what level they are at, is you are actually getting rid of a lot of carbons. And in the early, I should not even say this, well, your body, your physical vessel has started a process when you awakened to eliminate the carbon bases, the atoms like the sugars and the certain acids that are have more a more uh, a more bonding carbon on them. They're harder to break down, so be very careful with that. And also, some of the acetic acids are also, it depends on each one individually, but take note of it when you start feeling bodily discomforts within. It's always great to look at your diet, what you just had previously, and then test that so that you'll know if it's something you need to eliminate from your diet in the future. But carbon, I suggest stay away from consuming uh, any direct sources of carbon. Carbon is in all of your foods, but you can limit it and you'll be showing, listen to your body, what you should have and what you shouldn't.
Yeah, which I was going to say on that too. I said this in one of our other shows, but what I had found, somebody had given this, and this is true with a person or food, is that when you eat the food, or if you're with the person, um, check 20 minutes later and see how you feel, how your energy is. If you eat
Yes.
something sort of food, if your stomach, if you're gassy or whatever, that's pretty much telling your body's kind of giving you a message there. With a person, if your energy's drained or low.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I lost you again. Okay.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Woo! We're rocking, girl.
That's right. Um,
22 comments. Woo!
huh? Oh yeah,
222 comments.
22.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice. That's a great number. Rick says I have shungite bracelets and is made up of carbon and is EMF protection. What's shungite? I don't know. I've never heard of that. Is it a metal?
I'm trying to recall exactly. I did know this as well. I'm not the carbon bracelet. Where you brought this up, Rick, what I would like to say on that, if you are experiencing some discomforts or things where you're feeling that perhaps you should change, what I say is don't hesitate and do it. Is what I would give on that. It's very interesting. From the Shun Guide, I knew all about it, but all the information is just blocked right here, which is it's very interesting. But yeah, just I suggest don't question your thoughts and your prompts of thoughts that you were given. Act on them. Don't hesitate. Is what I suggest. Don't question.
Good advice. Yes. 66 shares. Okay. Well, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. She said thank you for the information on the electric blanket. She loves her pad.
Yeah.
I whirl my aura and do work with it, and it's Eileen. Oh, it's Eileen. Oh, okay. Thank you, Eileen. Sorry. Thanks for that clarification.
That's so cool. Yeah. You go, girl. Whirl it. Yeah. Awesome.
I love it. It's like Rick always says, spread the pixie dust all over, like
yeah.
what's her name? Yeah, Tinkerbell and no other questions right now. Seeing the threes on steroids.
Oh, thanks, Linda. So, shungite is a carbon-based element.
Oh, yes, from a meteorite in Russia. Huh.
Yeah.
It's a stone of protection. Oh, interesting. Yeah, let me get up there. Oops. Okay, what about Joseph? Do we need seatbelts when we go to warp speed? And can we bring some friends? Very funny.
What was that again?
Joseph's like, do we need seatbelts when we go to warp speed? And can we bring some friends? Yes. Hey, you can do anything when you're at warp speed. You just take friends with you. Hold hands like in the movie A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, well, that was comical last night. Three of us got together in my RV. Helen and Danny come out and joined, and we were practicing a little bit of that, and Danny actually felt like the RV had risen. So yeah, and but I also got the confirmation on it that actually I was seeing the roof of my RV like pointed upwards. I'm sitting level, but inside it was on an angle about like that, definite angle. So we were having a little bit of fun, and it was very cool. We had fun with the fairies as well. We were working on, and Danielle, she's just having such amazing progress here, and we're having fun. We actually had, little fairies, the golden sparkles were coming inside Betsy. We could see them. Yeah, so it was very cool. So we had fun as well. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's so awesome.
It's in numbers, in the physicals, the gatherings, and you create huge auric fields, and you also generate higher dimensional energy there. That, perhaps if you get 100 of you together, you can transport right out of here, like in one of those Incan civilizations. It is written, that. That's what they think happened to the people, that they raised their consciousness and their vibration high enough because they were a very good community, and in conjunction with each other, love and harmony, and they just raised themselves right out of here. but that is true.
Okay.
So,
Hey, we can do it. We can do it. Junior says, do you agree with Cobra that those who won't make Ascension will be transported to another planet through ships after the planet is washed clean with a tsunami wave apart from the islands of crystalline cities. Thank you,
With
Junior.
that, Junior, and with anyone, I always suggest to not literally take what you're reading, to apply it, to look at it also metaphorically and in a higher perspective. Because what occurs is that, the very odd time that the way something is written is not the way it could be perceived. Now, with Cobra, I am familiar with Cobra, but I do not follow what the intel what Cobra puts out there. But neither do I degrade it, because everyone has a purpose and they are connected to this ascension. So with this, no one is right nor wrong. So all things are possible, having said that. And for any of you watching this and in the light communities, do not judge another one of your light. They judge themselves by their action. But know that what might seem wrong for you is just exactly what another needed for their level that they are at. So it's important, just to keep yourself going forward, and try not to think that something else is wrong just because you don't agree with it, because it's perfect for what ones may need at that time, what they're following. But we are ever evolving and things are changing. And what can be a truth in this now can change in the blink of an eye. If you make a major shift, then that means certain truths also change very quickly in physical laws and many things the way you knew it. So it's great just to understand that, and remain neutral. And, if something doesn't resonate, well, that just means it's not for you, but that does not mean that it's for someone else. But the perspective, Junior, is that, let me say, what I received is that, yes, there are two 4D timelines, which some were staying, uh, at first, some were staying on those to have the apocalyptic experience. But for what I was given, maybe several months or a year ago, many souls changed their contracts, and there's going to be very few on those two lower 4D timelines. But the reference what Cobra made, yeah, most likely on a 4D timeline. So those ones, but they will ascend through a death process, which is different than us. We are ascending with the physical vessels intact, leaving this reality, going up to this reality. And during the course of doing that, you may be leaving behind a replica of your body here, but you're upstairs there walking all around with your body intact. But you need to leave, some of you, a replica behind for the other souls that are at this level, and say, okay, well, she died or whatever, for the ones that are not to know the truth. But you're actually up here and everything is cool and okay. So that does occur as well.
Awesome. Well, I don't plan on dying, so I'm not. Well, I know there's no death, but I'm not going anywhere. So. I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out with everybody.
You're holding down the fort here, are you?
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna hold down the fort.
Come on, Lynn, you got to go. What Dad told me the other day, pretty well, that we all got to cross the finish line holding hands. And
oh no, I'm in for that. Yeah, I'm in for that. I'm not staying down this Monday. No, I'm not gonna be doing that. No.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Junior said, "Thank you, brother."
You're welcome, Junior.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Dad kind of reminded me of how I like to go forward, and he said, again, he who tries to go forward will go last. So I said, well, I may as well get that right down here last on the bottom and start pushing everyone up then to get it done quicker. So
you just gotta push Trump.
is
No, nobody's
that
got to
as
push Trump.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're tired of that mundane. Yeah, because it makes it more tiresome when you know the truth and know what you're able to access and achieve, right? Because it's like, okay, here's Christmas. You want to get closer. You don't want to get further away, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
anyhow, yeah.
That's true. You're welcome, Alana. Janelle had a question. Can you comment on Amazon?
In I saw that earlier. I just wonder in what respect. I did see a Facebook thing out saying that actually Amazon and its taxes will pay zero and will most likely get a refund. And Amazon is, one of the biggest companies in the world. Let's just say I love that being put out there to cause public rage over the tax system. But a very interesting comment in that. The one that wrote the comment was kind of blaming it on Trump about the tax reliefs, in the new policies where the tax reliefs for the companies. But it was very strategic, again, for Trump to administer these um, tax reliefs to put more pressure on the awakened public not to accept it. So a very ingenious move, and also by doing that, he's allowing the big companies once again to implode out of the capitalism, and so a very ingenious strategic thing with that. So what I would say with don't get your vengeance and your hatred out there towards companies that are avoiding taxes and things, because again, the main focus is we're on timelines that are taking us out of there. Oh, child trafficking, I see that as well. Well, again, Janelle, we can most likely apply uh, the same perspective or reasoning to it. Um, the more that it is shown to the public to create a public distaste towards Amazon, again, it's going to take that elitist construct out of the equation very soon as well. So, child trafficking, yeah, and again, all of these sort of things, they are coming down, being revealed very quickly, and so much of the underground railroads, we had cut. Most of those railroads are cut off, to my knowledge, and I would almost go to say that really all of them have been cut off now. And these were underground railroads that were supplying the satanic cults, the Ninth Circle of the Vatican, and Bohemian Grove, or Bohemian, sorry, Grove, uh, uh, and some other Freemasons. Many of these notorious societies for these kind of occultist practices and satanic practices and rituals that they perform. So deep state programming so can monitor the people. Again, a lot of the programming, the conditioning, and mind control, all of you are free of that. You know that you are ascending, and any that is ascending, let's say a human mind control conditioning does not prevent them. You break right through that when you're supposed to. So I suggest, but Janelle, it was important before, but what I suggest now, each one of you is evidence that you have breached through it. So you know that it is possible, where each one of you have done it. Then that means it is possible and that more will be doing it. So no one is held captive really by that. I will say we will have, there are, let's say let's say we're going to have some fun on some electronic devices, some angels here in the future and practicing their gifts. So, so we got to leave some things intact for training purposes as well.
Oh, that sounds fun and interesting. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather skip it because I'm divinely
Well,
overworked. Except last night we got karaoke. I just took
yeah,
time for myself and to be with two other angels, and yeah, just woo, laugh and
yeah,
sing and have fun. It was cool.
yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about. Yeah. I don't see any other questions, but what was unless I know Joseph has a comment there. I can read his. I was just going to see if at 0 point official address, I've seen Vision Atlantis rising, ship landing, and Jesus right in front of me across my coffee table. Oh, he has fallen. I was his eyes. That's beautiful. That's Debbie. That was beautiful.
Yeah. So essentially, yeah, everyone is doing great, and
Yeah,
uh, I suggested tonight's show, again for perhaps a sort of legacy to leave behind for ones that are awakening or may view this, after we potentially and possibly leave these timelines.
yeah,
So, uh, and we're forever planting seeds and going forward. So you do what feels right in the moment, and I did wish to, touch on these topics tonight. And I thank you so much with that, Linda, because they do
yeah.
tie into our now and gives more a look and give others a little bit more of an understanding. It was what I attempted
Yeah.
to do.
Well, and I think what was important was that this ascension is connected to Trump, and Trump is still in the 4D doing the mundane things that he has to do. As we talked the other night, he's got one foot in the heavens, one foot here, right? So he's got to maintain down here. And so it really does all the stuff, all the negative stuff, and all the stuff that's coming out. It does really pertain. It's very well, like you said, connected. So yeah,
Perfect.
so
Yeah,
good worthy
thank you
talking
because
about.
yeah, you touched on the negative things that Trump got to put out there because yeah, they do have an underlying intent and purpose, which is
Yes.
good, but they are
Yes.
guidance mechanisms to do many things and to sometimes take the attention away and sometimes to be bait and a decoy for
Yes.
calling out, some more of the resistance. As you call out
Yes.
more of it, then you get them and get rid of it. So,
Yeah.
indeed, it is very interesting. And one thing with Trump when he was, when he got elected and he started calling in his government, is one of the things is the Goldman Sachs banker and a few other bankers that he brought in there, and actually the bankers are something that the Ascension is taking out. But with that, in a Trump strategy, you like to keep your enemies right where you can see them. So what better place, and gather the goods on them as well. And
Right.
so always
Yeah.
perfect strategies with this.
He's perfect. And I just for more people to see that what he's really doing, nothing is as it appears to be, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. He
totally.
does
Thank you.
everything so deliberate. So deliberate. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and what you shared, Linda, with that Venezuela, you know, um,
Video.
address or video that he did, and so many things you cannot deny nor refute that. The wording of that, all of the clues are in there, but they're
Yes.
becoming more prominent, and they're sticking out just like sore thumbs, what have you. And now it's becoming more and more clear. You don't have a president speaking, the way that he does if the intent was ill. Indeed.
Yeah, for sure. Well, awesome. We don't have any more questions, so if there's any last words of wisdom that you have to close the show.
Just what I wish to say, everyone, put your focus on yourself. This is a good selfishness, which is going to propel your whole reality further. You are the rocket. Power yourself up. Don't be distracted by mundane, negative things. Work on empowering yourself, then the rest falls in place. You are the key. You need to know that you are a creator of your reality. And the higher you can get up, the better you can create. So you don't want to create from a level down here where you don't have all of your powers yet. You wish to focus your strength to get up the stairs where all of your powers are at, like in a video game. Then you change the reality much more rapidly. So don't waste your time downstairs. Focus on getting you upstairs.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rick, so much. Appreciate you being on the show. It's awesome. It's always great as usual. So love that.
Got a namaste tonight. Thank you,
Yeah.
Peace, love, and I love you all. And thank you so much. And you are in the most auspicious times, and it is real. And woo! So thank you, Linda. I'll chat with you perhaps online here after you get off for a few moments, if you wish.
Yes, that'd be great. So thank you. And thank you guys. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. You're so welcome. And thanks everybody for joining. All your comments, the questions were always great. Love it. And thanks everybody for joining, who will be joining us afterwards. We greatly appreciate you and we love you, and we will see you real soon. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. You do such an amazing job. Everyone loves you.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. All right. Bye, you guys. Love you. Bye.